This man accidentally fell in love with his fiance's older sister. To get close to her, he used the excuse of teaching her table tennis and pulled her into his arms. To his surprise, she didn't resist. Instead, she gave him a deep, seductive look that left him breathless. Just as he was about to do something, her girl's boyfriend walked in. Her boyfriend noticed nothing, and the man sighed in relief. But deep down, he couldn't shake the disappointment, knowing something might have happened if not for the interruption. The next day, while cleaning his room, he saw her walking alone in the pouring rain. He rushed to her side and asked what was wrong. She admitted she had argued with her boyfriend. Secretly thrilled, the man comforted her, but this sudden attraction had turned into something much stronger, something that would test just how far they were willing to go, for love or for desire. Chris is a former professional tennis player who reflects on the importance of luck in life. He explains that during a tennis match, a ball can hit the net and either fall forward, making you win, or fall back, making you lose. It all comes down to chance. Chris was once a successful player, traveling the world for tournaments, but he grew tired of that lifestyle and decided to become a tennis instructor in London. He finds a job at a prestigious club where he meets a wealthy student named Tom. The two become friends, and one day, Tom mentions he loves opera but has no one to go with. Chris says he enjoys opera too, so Tom invites him to join his family at a show. At the opera, Chris meets Tom's family, including his sister Chloe. There's an immediate spark between them, and Chloe is clearly impressed with Chris. The next day, Tom tells Chris that his sister likes him and has invited him to their family's country home for the weekend. Chris agrees to go. At the country house, as Chris and Tom are playing tennis, Chloe expresses interest in learning, so Chris gives her a lesson. They spend the afternoon talking and getting to know each other. Chloe learns that Chris comes from a poor family and worked his way up to become a professional tennis player. She finds his story inspiring and invites him to an art exhibition. Later that evening, Chris notices a beautiful and captivating woman in the house, Tom's fiancée, Nola. She's an American actress, and Chris is immediately drawn to her. Nola is playing table tennis and beating everyone, so Chris challenges her to a game. He wins, and she flirts with him, saying he has an aggressive game. Chris, equally flirtatious, asks her if anyone has ever told her she has sensual lips. Their conversation is interrupted by Tom, who introduces Nola as his fiancée. It's clear that Tom's mother disapproves of Nola's profession as a struggling actress, but Tom is deeply in love with her. Since Chris doesn't have many students, he has a lot of free time. Chloe, wanting to help him, talks to her father about getting Chris a job at his company. Her father agrees, and Chloe is excited to tell Chris the news. Chris feels awkward about the offer, admitting he knows nothing about business and might not do a good job, but Chloe reassures him, saying he'll learn and could one day run the entire office. That night, Chris and Chloe are having dinner with Nola and Tom. Chris is eager and asks about her acting career. Nola admits she only got one commercial and hasn't had much luck since, so she's thinking of quitting acting altogether. A few days later, we see that Chris has taken the job at Chloe's father's company. He and Chloe are hanging out, and he gives her a CD of songs he likes. They plan a quiet evening at home with dinner and music, but Chloe mentions that Nola and Tom invited them to dinner, which she turned down. Chris, clearly more interested in seeing Nola, convinces Chloe they should go, saying their quiet night can wait. They go to dinner, but Nola isn't there. She has an audition and is too nervous to join them. The next day, Chris runs into Nola on the street. She's on her way to an audition and is a mess of nerves. Chris offers to walk with her to calm her down. The audition doesn't go well, and Nola says she needs a drink, so they head to a bar. As they talk, we learn that Nola's father left when she was a child, and she's always been driven to succeed and make something of herself, which is why she pursued acting. Chris asks about her relationship with Tom, and Nola explains they met at a party. Tom was instantly smitten and showered her with gifts and attention, proposing soon after. But Nola is frustrated because Tom's mother dislikes her and makes her feel unwelcome. Chris says he feels the same way, but Nola tells him that's not true. In fact, Tom's parents are hoping he and Chloe get married. She explains that Chloe's last boyfriend was a disaster, and compared to him, Chris is a perfect match. She warns him not to mess things up. Chris asks how he could do that, and Nola replies, "By having an affair with me. That weekend, the whole family is at the country house, and an argument breaks out between Tom's mother and Nola over her acting career. Nola, deeply upset, storms out into the rain. Chris follows her and finds her outside. She tells him it's not a good idea for them to be alone, but he leans in and kisses her, and they become intimate. After that night, Nola starts avoiding Chris. He finally confronts her, and she tells him they're both with other people, and what happened was a mistake. Soon after, Chris and Chloe get married and are looking at a beautiful new home. Chris worries they can't afford it, but Chloe says her father will help. A few months later, as Chris and Tom are playing tennis, Tom reveals he broke up with Nola. His mother pressured him into it, wanting him to marry a distant cousin instead. Chris tries to contact Nola, but can't find her anywhere. Meanwhile, Chris and Chloe are trying to get pregnant. Chloe is eager to start a family, and though Chris feels it's too soon, he goes along with it for her sake. Tom eventually marries his cousin, and some time passes. One day, Chloe is at an art gallery with a friend, and Chris, remembering he was supposed to meet her, heads over. On his way, he runs into Nola. She had left town for a while, but is now back. Chris asks where she's living and if they can meet, but Nola reminds him he's married and asks what the point would be. Just then, Chloe showed up and casually asked Nola how she was doing. The conversation was awkward, and Nola quickly excused herself. After she left, Chris begged Nola for her phone number. She hesitated at first, but eventually gave it to him. Not long after, the two jumped into an intimate relationship. Chris was now at Nola's apartment almost every day, and even her elderly neighbor had started noticing his presence. One evening, Chris and Chloe were out to dinner with Tom when a friend of Chris's spotted him. The friend insisted he had seen Chris walking near a certain street and had called out to him, but Chris denied it, saying it was a mistake. That street just happened to be close to Nola's house. Chloe didn't think much of it, so Chris managed to get away without raising suspicion. Time went by, and Chris and Nola kept seeing each other. Chris admitted he wasn't happy in his marriage and promised Nola he would leave Chloe soon, but he never actually did. Nola was furious. Chloe still had no clue, and Chris kept stalling. He promised, "I'll tell her soon." A few days later, Chris went on a family weekend trip. While he was away, Nola called, extremely upset, begging him to come to her immediately. Chris made excuses about work, but Chloe insisted he stay with the family. That night, Nola called again, this time in tears, saying she was pregnant. Shocked, Chris met her the next day. She explained that because they hadn't been careful, she was now expecting, and begged him to divorce Chloe so they could start a new life together. Chris spiraled into panic. Chloe noticed his strange behavior and assumed it was because she couldn't get pregnant, something she had always struggled with. Chris reassured her, hugged her, and pretended everything was fine. But privately, he confessed everything to a close friend. He couldn't just walk away from Chloe. His career was soaring. He had just been promoted, and his standard of living had never been higher. He told his friend, "I can't throw this away, but I can't stay away from Nola either." To buy himself time, he told Nola he was going on a family vacation and would confess everything when he got back. The truth, the vacation was already canceled. Then, during a family dinner, Chloe's father surprised Chris with yet another big promotion. Meanwhile, Nola was desperately trying to reach him, but he ignored every call. Finally, one day, she went straight to his office and confronted him outside. Furious, she demanded answers. Chris tried to calm her, saying, "We just got back early. I was going to call you." But Nola snapped, threatening, "If you won't tell your wife, I will." Chris was terrified. That night, unable to sleep, his mind went dark. Chloe's father was a hunter, and Chris knew where he kept all his guns. Quietly, he stole one. Later, when Chloe happened to open his bag and nearly discovered it, Chris snatched it away, quickly making up a story about taking her to a play the next day. Chloe was excited, not realizing the real plan forming in his mind. The following evening, Chris called Nola, claiming, "I told Chloe everything. Meet me at your place at 7 p.m. But instead of coming clean, he arrived an hour early at Nola's building. Her elderly neighbor knocked on his door, asking about her cable TV. Chris let himself in, pulled out the gun, and killed her. He trashed the apartment and stole her jewelry to make it look like a robbery. Moments later, a man came by to visit the old woman, but when no one answered, he left. At 7 p.m., Nola returned home. As soon as she stepped off the elevator, Chris shot her dead. Horrified at what he'd done, he quickly left, and as if nothing happened, went with Chloe to the play. Police later arrived at Nola's apartment, finding the neighbor and Nola dead, convinced it was a burglary gone wrong. The next morning, newspapers reported the murder, and Chloe, along with her entire family, mourned for Nola. Chris, cold and calculating, returned the gun to his father-in-law's house to cover his tracks. At night, he saw visions of Nola asking, "After what you did, how can you live with yourself?" And the old woman whispering, "Why did you kill me? What was my sin?" Chris admits I did it to destroy any chance of being caught. But in his mind, the old woman's voice still haunts him. Do you remember, Chris? Nola said she was pregnant. You also lost your child. Later, the detectives sit together, debating. One remains suspicious of Chris, but another reveals that the old woman's ring was found with a drug addict. A flashback shows us what really happened. When Chris dumped the jewelry into the river, the ring slipped, landing on the shore. An addict picked it up and unknowingly sealed his fate. With that, Chris once again narrowly escapes justice. Now, Chloe is pregnant. Chris has received a big promotion. Now, he has a perfect family and everything one could hope for. Remember, at the very beginning, Chris said in life, chance is everything. A ball can strike the net and either fall forward, granting victory, or fall back, ending in defeat. And truly, if luck hadn't favored him, he wouldn't have survived. Maybe sometimes, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe, just maybe, you'll get lucky today too.